There's no.
Good evening.
$800 for everyone.
Welcome to the third and I suspect this will be the final budget meeting for this year. We have a packed agenda this evening, so let's begin. It's Wednesday, May the 1st, 2024. Approximately it's at 6:15, 6:19. We'll begin with boards and commissions, and the first up is the Board of Health. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, distinguished members of the Village Board. I'm Dr. Edward Lynn, Chair of the Skokie Board of Health. I'm also here with Mike Charlie, who I'm sure you know about, the Director of Health and Human Services. And I'd like to introduce the Board of Health Vice Chair, Sybil Yao, for those of you that you haven't met Sybil. Tonight is my privilege to be involved in the presentation of our FY25 budget. The Skokie Board of Health plays a vital role in safeguarding the health of our residents. Working closely with Health and Human Services, we address pressing issues such as the COVID-19 pandemic, and especially in the past fall, the other significant medical issues associated with a variety of respiratory viral infections like RSV and influenza. We're currently focused on a number of pertinent public health issues as follows. Looking critically at maternal health in the village of Skokie, health risk associated with non-medical recreational cannabis use in general, and especially during pregnancy, challenges in assessing health care, and behavioral health services. Noteworthy milestones discussed in our meetings in the past year include the termination of the World Health Organization, the U.S. and the state of Illinois COVID-19 disaster declaration, which occurred in May of 2023, which was followed shortly by FDA approval of a new effective and recommended monovalent COVID-19 vaccine this past fall. Additionally, these vaccines became privatized under individual insurance programs, but were covered by certain federal programs for those who were eligible. In 2024, we honored Dr. Kandula and the Skokie Community Foundation with the Partners of Public Health Excellence Award for their amazing public health contributions to the community. We also developed a new Board of Health onboarding handbook and process, ensuring that every member, new or seasoned, is equipped to serve our community to the fullest. We foster camaraderie among the members by allowing each Board of Health member an opportunity to introduce themselves, providing a little background as to why they are both personally, who they are both personally and professionally. Now, our meetings have featured Board of Health educational presentations from the outstanding Health and Human Services professional staff. And our goal was to enhance the understanding of their programs and activities. Many of our members also volunteer with the village's Medical Reserve Corps and participate at special events throughout the year. Most notably, the example would be the influenza clinic that was highly successful this past fall. Finally, our Vice Chair Sybil Yao and I actively participated in iPlan's Community Health Needs Assessment process. And Sybil took on an important role as co-chair of the Community Health Improvement Plan's Access to Healthcare Action Team. So looking ahead, we continue advising the village board, supporting Health and Human Services, and engaging in community health initiatives. I'm very proud to lead the Board of Health, and I'm pleased to be here, and I'd like to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Just one regarding COVID. Are they recommending any more boosters?
Yes. So if you're over the age of 65, if you are immunocompromised in any way or have chronic illnesses, it's been recommended that you get another dose of the same monovalent vaccine that was approved this past September. And they recommend that it should be roughly after 4 months of either having been vaccinated or, if you were unfortunate, having acquired COVID. So the immunity is excellent, but it starts to taper off at 4 months. So that 4 to 6 month window is a good idea to be revaccinated if you fall into those categories. This is with the understanding that we expect sometime in the late summer, an approval of probably a new formulation that will be approved for next year, starting in the fall. You know, we think that the vaccinologists are looking at COVID similar to influenza, where you have to look at what's the strains that are, in circulation and adjust your vaccine accordingly.
One more question, if you don't mind. When my children were young, they had a schedule of vaccination, rubella, German measles, whatever it was. Are they gonna be adding COVID to that series?
Most likely. Yeah, it is definitely part of the VFC list of approved vaccines. So that's vaccinations for children. It's a federal program to cover those people, regardless of their ability to their insurance coverage. But we think that's going to be the case. Actually, there's a lot of concern, and I've been outside of this activity with the Board of Health. I've been working with the Illinois Academy of Pediatrics because there's so much misinformation, disinformation, and there's a large number of people who are not being vaccinated, and that's why we're dealing with measles now. And in the United States, we've had polio outbreak, which is the first time in a half a century. So it has a lot of people concerned.
Thank you.
Dr. Lynn, good to see you.
Nice to see you.
That's great work, the whole team. Just wanted to ask a question about mental health. You talked about just having access. And I know still post-COVID, especially with children and young adults, there's still a great need for mental health supports. Just wondering your thoughts on just as far as how accessible it is now. I know some of the challenges.
Well, mental health services has been always an extraordinary challenge in the community. And to be blunt, it has to do with having enough providers, but also third-party insurance coverage for mental health service has always been kind of the stepchild of medicine, never has been adequately. So the reimbursements are really substandard. And so that's a different level of concern. What we're trying to do, and Tipple can maybe comment more about this, because that's one of the issues of the I-Plan that came up, was looking how we can utilize the services that already exist and have conversations with the provider groups to see if there's ways of improving access and try to simplify it for people. Right. Because that's also a challenge. Right now, access for healthcare in this area is an extraordinary challenge. And as a relatively recently retired physician, I get calls from friends, families, neighbors. Can I get them an appointment with a primary care provider? And I feel sorry for my son-in-law who's a practicing thoracic surgeon, because I usually turf it to him. Because I don't have any keys to the back door anymore. With the way these health systems are set up and their scheduling nightmares. Any comments about that?
Yeah, there's a team from I-Plan working on access to behavioral health. Peggy Tollison and Ann Rainey are the co-chairs, and they've been doing a lot of work in terms of looking at reimbursement and how to appeal to increase that so that it's more appealing to people to want to provide services. So yeah, there's a whole branch of the I-Plan that's working on that. So thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work. We all, of course, recognize there's a need, whether it's mental health or physical health, etc. Do you think that we're doing a good enough job in letting the residents know what's available to them? I think that that's always been a problem. We could send out all the information alone, I know that as well, we can't get people to read it necessarily. We talk about that all the time. Are there other things that you think we should be doing, because maybe people aren't aware of what's available to the village? Even though, again, I will reiterate that I do believe we do a lot of messaging, do you have something else you would like to see, a suggestion, so that we can let our residents know what is available?
Well, as somebody who's worked in the private and the public sector and now involved with the Board of Health, to me, I'm always wondering how to get the word out. But that is a real challenge, because I think Skokie does a wonderful job of offering communication. The question is it connecting? And I know that we ran into something, I'll let Sybil share it with you, if you don't mind. Because one of the things that startled me was, as a former obstetrician, when Skokie, a couple of years ago, looking at the data, we had a relatively high percentage of people that received late prenatal care. And I was, I lived here since '78, so that kind of shook me up a little bit. That I didn't realize this was a challenge. That was one of the things that the iPlan process has surfaced, and they started, peeling the onion back, so to speak. And we realized that maybe people aren't aware of the fact, and new people coming to the community, immigrant population, newly to this country, maybe don't understand how to access these things. So we thought of, a lot of ideas have been kicked around. I don't want to say it was just the Board of Health. I mean, it's really the task force. So why don't you share your experience you had when you made an attempt to try to work in one of these fairs?
Okay, so we're using collective impact as our framework for the iPlan. So this is something new, where we are looking for people with the lived experience to help us describe what they're facing. And we are using the different community events to have a table to get the word out. We're also using the Board of Health members because they're in touch with their community as far as access to health care and behavioral health and affordable housing. So we're hoping that we can get to the trusted advisors who are in those pockets of the community that don't access the Skokie news and are not really keeping up with what's going on through electronic means. And that's a slow process to get to the trusted advisors. So anything anybody can do to help us get connected would be much appreciated.
So a consideration, and I know that when people go to places of worship, they don't necessarily live in the community, but there are many places of worship in our community that people still live in Skokie residents. Maybe we can empower or bring in as trusted, as you said, advisors or liaisons, is to have a meeting with the clergy to tell them that maybe they can tell the community people. And I think a lot of, I don't know this factually, but I suspect that immigrants do tend to go to their places of worship as a first step to try to find a way into settling into a new environment, and that might be a good way of doing that.
Right, and we have met with the different clergy. We have tried to get the word out, and it's just a slow process. I think it's a building of the trust of what is this thing you're trying to do. So it's not gonna happen overnight, but I think with everybody's efforts of letting people know, one-on-one, hey, Skokie's working on this, we need your help, I think that then we'll gain the momentum.
Thank you very much for you.
Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Give the commission the board's best wishes. You did a great job, our team did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The commission on family services. Welcome. To begin with.
Yeah, that was unusually low.
Yeah, I didn't get to that.
Yeah, the three in a row are much different heights. But anyway.
I feel like a grown up. But my feet don't touch the floor. Okay, well, I'd like to thank the village board and the mayor for supporting the commission's initiatives during the year. I want to also thank Melissa Dersch and the Skokie Human Services Division for all that she has helped and that which the division has provided. We have a few little handouts, or one handout for you. Kind of itemizes the various initiatives that we completed during the year. So as you all know, the Commission on Family Services provides a forum for focus on a wide range of issues concerning Skokie's most vulnerable citizens. Recommendations on policies, programs, and procedures are presented to the mayor and to the board of trustees. So to better address issues in the community, our commission established 3 subcommittees, each focused on specific populations: seniors, people with disabilities, and at-risk youth and families. Our commission organized the following events during the past year. These events were successful in a large part, because we partnered with other government units and nonprofit organizations. So we were able to extend our scope and abilities. During the summer, our commission facilitated the produce initiative at Skokie Farmers Market, and we facilitated a monthly food and clothing drive also at the farmers market. We estimate we collected about 7,300 pounds of fresh produce from generous vendors, 760 pounds of non-perishable food and toiletries, and about 150 bags of clothing. The fresh produce was brought to the Niles Township Food Pantry and quickly distributed, since there is significant demand. The bags of clothing were brought to the clothing closet at St. Paul's Lutheran Church just across the parking lot. We partnered with the Village of Skokie, St. Paul Lutheran Church, and the Niles Township Food Pantry to make this event a success. On November 4th, after a 4-year hiatus, our seniors subcommittee held the Boomers and Beyond Senior Resource Fair at the Oakton Community Center. Over 430 guests attended. There were 40 exhibitors, and 6 speakers addressed topics of concerns for seniors or their care providers. We partnered with the Skokie Health and Human Services Division, the Skokie Park District, Skokie Public Library, the Chamber of Commerce, CJE, North Shore Senior Center, and Advocate Health Services. So we brought a lot of people to the table there, and consider that a major success. Also in November, our at-risk youth and families subcommittee held a diaper drive. This is the first time we attempted that. Boxes of diapers were collected at Village Hall, Skokie Public Library, and at a firehouse and at Skokie Police Station. Diapers could also be ordered from Amazon and delivered directly to the Niles Township Food Pantry. We collected almost 10,000 diapers in this diaper drive. That's not boxes, that's diapers, and delivered them. On April 14th, the People with Disabilities, the People with Disabilities Subcommittee held a town hall meeting to address concerns of Skokie residents with disabilities. Again, we partnered with Skokie Health and Human Services Division, the Public Library, Keshet, JCFS, the Douglas Center, and Shore Services. The event was attended by 21 community members who participated in small discussion groups. So each one of these discussion groups had a facilitator
and the note taker, with the idea of being able to capture all of the comments that people had. The comments were collected and they're being, at this point, compiled. A report will be completed, be reviewed by village personnel, and recommendations will then be presented to the mayor and to the board, to the village board. Of other things, we participated at the Festival of Cultures, the 4th of July Parade, the Skokie Night Out. All of these events, we passed out pamphlets to publicize our activities and use this as an opportunity to meet our neighbors and listen to their concerns. So we have several upcoming things. Our at-risk youth and family subcommittee is organizing another diaper drive. This is the Mother's Day diaper drive. Several religious organizations are also co-sponsoring this activity with us. So information is made available in the latest Skokie news, and encourage everybody here to participate in it. The nicest thing we have, there's QR on there. You just have to go to that QR. It'll lead you to an Amazon site, and you can order directly from Amazon to be delivered to the food pantry. So nice, convenient way of donating. Again, this summer, the commission will help facilitate the produce initiative at the farmers market and the food and clothing drive. So we'll also have diapers drive at that time also. And other activities are in the preliminary planning stages. So, so that kind of wraps up what we're doing. The commission plans to use the proposed funding of $1,200 for supplies for the produce initiative and for publicizing and promoting the food pantry donation drive and future diaper drives. That wraps up my presentation.
Comments, questions?
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pleasure. Go ahead with yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Human relations. Maria Monastery. Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you.
Short chair. Great to have you. Great.
As you know from the handout, my name is Sheila Crumrine, and I'm pleased to share with you this evening a brief overview of the work that is done by the Human Relations Commission. The Commission focuses on promoting understanding and respect among residents of diverse backgrounds. And our key activities include promoting block parties, cultural events, enforcing fair housing ordinances, and engaging in educational dialogues about racism. The Commission also participates in events such as the Skokie Festival of Cultures, Unite Against Racism, and Juneteenth celebrations. HRC members are participating on a village committee to revise the Skokie seal and are involved in community education projects addressing issues of hate and bias. The Commission, together with the Skokie Library and the Heritage Museum, is co-sponsoring an upcoming evening event focusing on the past, present, and future of fair housing in Skokie. Additionally, the Commission is exploring the revival of the Know Your Neighbor program, and with the hope of enhancing community cohesion. So I wasn't planning on saying this, but I just had a thought as I was sitting here about how important I'd like to share with you because I'm relatively new to the commission. So I'd like to thank Amanda, who has been absolutely amazing and does so much work and keeping us on track and also contributing to what we're trying to accomplish. But I read a quote that I would like to share with you, and in fact, it was so meaningful to me at this time in our country, where there is so much going on, both locally and nationally and internationally. That is an old quote from Woodrow Wilson, and his quote is that friendship is the only cement that will ever hold the world together. And the more that I became part of the Human Relations Commission, the more that was what I felt we were trying to accomplish, you know, to build friendships within our community to make it stronger. So that's why I'm on this commission and why it's meaningful to me. So, you know, look forward to getting funding to continue our work. Thank you very much for your time.
You want to talk just a little bit about you're working on, was it the neighbors? Talk about that a little bit. Because I think, John, I think pre-COVID, we did something similar to
That's right, the
that,
coffees.
50 coffees around the village.
That's right.
Yeah, this is kind of a nascent idea. It isn't fully developed yet. But one of our committee members, I wanted to say, Karen, right, picked up this idea from something they're doing either in Wilmette or the Metro. And the idea is that there, the village sponsors with a pink flamingo. And they take this, somebody picks up this pink flamingo once a week or whenever, and they put it out in their front yard. And because the program is announced to the community, that particular block or community, when they see that in the front yard, they know that on a given night, there's going to be an open house. You just come, you sit on the lawn, you sit in the backyard or whatever. And it's meant to be a more casual, easier for somebody who's trying to organize than a block party, right? Which takes work and an organization. This is simply, I am willing to invite my neighbors to share time with me for a couple of hours. And that's what that hopefully we'll be able to do that. We've had various, we don't want to do the big flamingos and we'll have our own, whatever it is we choose to do. But that's the concept. Again, this idea of just building friendships and how crucial, because they are crucial.
You can't put up there into Chicago.
No, I'm afraid not, because that may not achieve the goal we're seeking.
Something neutral.
Yeah.
Detroit Tigers.
Well, now you're talking. Any comments or questions?
Thank you for your collaboration with the library for this fair housing event in June. It sounds great. It sounds like a perfect fit for the Human Relations Commission.
Thank you.
for
Just to, and maybe if you're not familiar with it, the library has, just very quickly, the library has already in their digital archives, in their, they have a digital display in their resources that's online that you can go to and look at the original, many of the original documents from the, I want to say 67.
Yeah.
Yeah. When the first Black family was trying to move into Skokie, and that's when our commission actually was put together to help ease that their entry into the community. But so they have that as a digital display, but then in June, we're working with them, they're going to actually display their documents in the library, and the library has actually been able to track down the man of the first couple, husband of the first couple that moved in, Mr. Jones. He is still alive at 90 something. He and his daughter are going to come. We thought that the son of the second or third couple was going to come in from New York, but at the last minute he can't get his schedule freed up. And we'll have maybe one other person from those truly the original people. And, you know, Mike and, well, I'm pleased, it pleases me greatly that they want to come. because I was concerned about how they would feel and what feelings that would stir up in them, and that it was something that would be feasible for them to do. But apparently it is.
David was chairman of the Human Relations Commission, first chairman, I believe. And he was chairman of the Board of Fire and Police Commission for over 4 years. Yeah, a great, great gentleman, very nice man. But we were the first municipality, 67, 68, not exactly a time of love and peace. But we were the first municipality in the state to pass a fair housing act.
Yeah.
And Mayor Smith was very proud of that. What happened to David Jones should never have ever happened to anybody. But he overcame it and was a major contributor to the village. So it's kind of a success story for the village.
The legacy of all that work really falls to your commission, even now, that if there was ever complaints about a fair housing issue, we have protocol. And years and years and years ago, when I was just a resident in and about, I worked with the commission on some public hearings we had. Luckily, we haven't had any for years, but it might be interesting to talk to the commission to understand the procedures and the heavy responsibility they have.
Yes, actually, Amanda and I did attend last year, a 2-day seminar that I was, University of Chicago or University of Illinois, sponsored by them with federal dollars, actually. And I was in awe. There's so much to learn on that topic. And the consequences of making rulings at this level, because it actually, those rulings are binding. That was the one thing we learned from this commission, which from the meeting we went to. So the decisions that would be made if something were brought to our commission, they would not be able to take that for any other court action at any other level. So there really is a lot of responsibility, which we take very seriously, honestly.
We've run seminars twice with the commission, be happy to do it again. And we brought in from the Fair Housing Department, Law Services to work with us on it. We should do it again, it's been many years.
Very good, thank you. We've enjoyed it. Take you up on that.
David is 97.
I beg your pardon?
David is 97.
He is,
Is that right?
he's certainly well into his 90s, but, and he lives, he still lives in Skokie, right? Or is it, I don't know, I don't want to, because of his privacy, I don't want to say his address. Yeah, I think it is. Anyway, so, anyway. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Plan Commission, Paul Luke. John.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. As we all know, the Plan Commission is comprised of 9 members, all of which are appointed by the mayor and the board of trustees. Last fiscal year, we met about 11 times, and we reviewed 29 Plan Commission cases. And although it doesn't seem like a lot of cases, these cases were some were controversial, some were very beneficial to the village. And it included limited service restaurant on Main Street, adult daycare center to help people who need daycare for adults, and also a new office to apartment conversion, which is one of the first in our village, I believe. A total of 245 units. And then, of course, the new Popeyes restaurant on 2 Avenue, we were wanting a Popeye restaurant for a long time. So we finally have one. We did a zoning amendment cases. We even tackled zoning amendment case for charging electric vehicles. So we kind of running the full gamut of things that come into the village here. So coming up, we're looking at about 36 cases, which is less than 20, which is about 20, well, less than cases that we've made over the past 5 years. Cases have been going downhill, maybe not downhill, but less than. So I guess, and I was talking to Brian Augustine, and I guess it's the economy that's not driving it down a little bit. But all in all, I think we're doing pretty well. Last night I participated in a APA roundtable meeting with various plan commission chairs and commissioners in this area, notably Arlington Heights, Springwood, Orland Park, Des Plaines. And we kind of talked about good practices for running a meeting. And there was a lively discussion, lasted about 90 minutes. Commissioner Scott Berman was also in attendance, and I called him afterwards. And I asked him what his take on the meeting was. And we both agreed that everything that they discussed, as far as good practices, are practices that we're also doing in Skokie here with our plan commission. So I think we're doing a pretty good job.
You've had a couple of heater cases.
Yes.
To say the least.
And we may have a couple more coming up.
And you want to give the status of your housing subcommittee?
I think they've got something together. I haven't seen the full report yet, so I really can't say. I've talked to a few people, and
There's a draft.
there's a draft, but I don't know where the draft is now, so I don't want to comment on it unless it changes. But when I was up at the National Planning Conference, I attended, I think, 5 sessions on affordable housing. The big issue with affordable housing is money. Funding. It's very difficult to fund. They all said that developers don't want to do it. It's very hard to get developers to do it. Some larger cities, such as Richmond, Virginia, who have 5 sessions of affordable housing, are using, government grant or CPGA funds to help renovate the housing projects and to landscape and make it more attractive. Places like in Seattle, they're working with abandoned factories and warehouses to try to turn them into affordable housing. But Skokie doesn't have anything like that. We don't have enough land. We don't have enough abandoned warehouses to do that. One of the things that I noticed that other cities are doing was the land banking, which we're going to start to do, and creating a fund from fees and lieu to help establish maybe some affordable housing, but also to maintain the affordable housing we have already.
So the subcommittee is going to review their latest draft on Thursday, tomorrow night, at 7 o'clock. And then we anticipate a recommendation of the plan commission from that point. So hopefully later this month, we'll bring the case before the plan commission to make a recommendation to the village board.
Comments, questions?
Sorry, as Mr. Lessons, when do you think the recommendation will reach the board?
I am reluctant to commit to a date, but we're tracking towards June, July.
Thank you.
Oh, man, yeah, you know what, this year I'm gonna be like a New Orleans Saints, I'm gonna put a bag over my head. Because bands mayor this year. So this is the Brian and Brian show. So, good evening, everybody, Mr. Mayor, our board, our lovely staff. So good to be here with you all tonight, and to talk a little about the zoning board of appeals. Zoning Board of Appeals is comprised of 8 regular members and a chairperson who are appointed by the mayor and the board of trustees. The zoning administrator serves as ex officio member of the board. The legal department acts as a staff advisor. The zoning board of appeals is the final hearing body in most circumstances with only specific types of appeals requiring action by the mayor and the board of trustees. For the fiscal year of 2023, we had 2 new cases, a residential floor area ratio request and 1 non-residential parking variation. Fiscal year 2024, 2 new cases, 1 sign variation, 1 non-residential parking variation. And the projections that we have going out, again, fiscal year 2023, 2 meetings, 2 cases. Fiscal year 24, 3 meetings, 5 cases. And the projection for 25 is 4 meetings and 6 cases. Our budget is going to be the same. So we like to be responsible with the taxpayers' money. So, other than that, is there any questions from members of the board? No. Staff, our lovely and most capable staff, is there anything you want to add to the situation?
Discussions with several architects recently about potential cases, side yard setbacks, potential building height. You know, there's more interest and I think a little more development starting back up than there was in the last 6 to 9 months for sure. Which just similar to, I think, how the appearance commission has dipped over the past year a little bit. We're seeing a little bit more appearance commission interest, and I think we're starting to see more cases that are going to eventually filter their way to the zoning board this year.
What's the height concern that the architects have?
One was doing, I believe it was on an existing building, matching the existing height, which may exceed the regulations that were changed 10 or 15 years ago.
Was that the mansionization?
Correct, when the heights went from, I believe, 32 feet in the R1 district and 30 in the R2, and they shrunk a little bit depending on the lot size. And there's one where they were proposing an addition, at least initially, now there's discussion, and matching the existing height that I believe exceeds the requirement now. Couple side yards they've spoken to about attached garages. It's a little more, it's picked up over the last couple months.
I was just gonna ask, you mentioned that there was an interest in development. What seems to be the theme of the interest?
Just as the appearance commission cases, I could tell at the beginning of last year, we're starting to slow a little bit, and they slowed throughout the year, and we get less appearance cases, which always then filters to less ZBA cases. I think this, in the last month or two, I think I've spoken with more architects or developers, more addition, not as much remodeling as last year or two, more, I think the additions are starting to possibly pick up a little bit, that we are ready to expand, we need an extra bedroom, we want to bump that kitchen out, stuff like that.
Anecdotally, we hear people also say, I can't afford to move because my mortgage rate is so low, so my best bet is to do the addition.
Correct.
Would you happen to know, are building permits on the rise? We had one period where they jumped to close to 5,000. I think we're down to about 3,800 now. Am I right?
You know, I think in the pandemic, we saw region-wide, we saw people redoing bathrooms. They're not taking their trip, they're gonna redo a bathroom, a Zoom room or other things. And now, and people refinance, I think these things are just a little cyclical, and one replaces another, like instead of the bathroom, now they're doing the addition. So there's, people are gonna, the same number of housing units exist, so the same number of permits for investing in housing may continue.
No. It depends what you fit.
No, I just can't believe that he called Brian lovely.
There's just one thing I want to close with, if I may.
Of course.
You know, the plan and zoning board of appeals is all part of community development, and we do kind of mesh together a little bit. But the thing that makes us distinctive is that plan is forward thinking. And the zoning board of appeals people don't wanna come and see us unless they have to. It's like going to the Circuit Court of Appeals. Nobody ever wants to go to the Circuit Court of Appeals unless they have to. So we're two distinct bodies, but yet we work well together. And I think it's that uniqueness between what plan does and what the zoning board of appeals does that makes it work well together as in the whole when community development is concerned.
Brian and Brian.
Thank you, Brian and Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you. What do you say? Let's go watch a section.
Thank you, sir.
Even the seaworm for you.
Thank you, sir. Commission, Mike Light.
Hello, everybody. Many years in a row now. Some of the statistics that Brian gave me, see, last year, or this fiscal year, we had roughly 47-ish cases, plus or minus. And some of those are, what we got, hang on a second. Right, it's usually a little different. I know. Additions and facades were about 23 cases. New homes, there was a couple, 2 cases. 2 non-residential buildings, 3 non-residential additions, 17 non-residential facades, commercial facades. So we're seeing a lot of those. Big commercial project at Old Orchard, where the Old Lord Taylor is being modified. I'm sure everybody goes over there and seen that. And then some of the stuff on Tweed Avenue, like Paul was saying, we have a Popeyes in town. And there was a car wash also at Tweed as well. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on. I do want to echo kind of what Brian says. We did have one. You brought this up to a heater case, if you will. That would be the one at the townhouse complex coming on Main Street when that school gets sold. I'm presuming that's still going forward, but at least it got through all of us. So it came to us first. We said this is, we're not even sure that this can be built. So we sent it over to, so Paul's committee dealt with it. And it sat there for a few meetings, I want to say, and a few long meetings, because I watched them all on TV or YouTube, whatever. And then it came back but cooler heads prevailed on the 2 different sides. It's a pro side, the con side. So, but anyway, it all worked out. I think in those cases, it's a winning solution when either side's happy. They met in the middle. So, and I think what like Paul said too, that there's probably going to be a couple more heater cases coming. Whether it's some of these big residential developments that are around the Orchard or whatever. So it's just a matter of making sure all the constituents, if you will, like what they see. Any questions? All right, well, that's easy. Thank you. All right, Brian, you're excused. All right, thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening.
You too.
Oh, that's right. Open house, public safety.
We go into a house.
It's your choice.
My choice?
Yeah, it's chairman's choice.
It's a test.
Well, I'd like a throne in that case. Evening all. Mayor. And councilor, trustees all, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be anywhere. Okay, very quickly, I won't take much of your time. In the past year, we had our usual number of stimulating meetings. Some of them have been very interesting, and including in those meetings, the police and fire departments put on some special information about their operations, and I thought that was pretty cool. We also tried to put some safety messages into the periodical. We hope to do more of that as we go on. You have already seen the use of forestry report, which our subgroup
produced. Am I correct, Mayor? Okay, and, we had a vehicle in the parade. I called it a vehicle because when I called it a truck, they said it was an engine. When I called it an engine, they said it was a truck. I'll never get those straightened out. But, and finally, furthermore, I'd like to have record. Since I've been on this commission, we've never gone over budget. I think that's a pretty good record.
That's a very good record.
Thank you. End of story. Questions?
Any safety drives coming up?
I'm sorry?
Any safety drives, public safety drives coming up?
I don't follow.
Bicycles?
Oh, no, that, no event. Unfortunately, we've had no events like that for quite a while. We used to have one every year, it was somewhat successful, but interest dried up. We stopped doing it. The police department tried it a couple of years, and I'm not sure how successful theirs was. Sorry. Wow. I didn't use up all my time. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
You too.
And he said going home.
Fine Arts Commission.
Here. Good evening, trustees. Good evening, everyone else who's here. Very nice to see you all again. The Fine Arts Commission has had a great year. And for anyone who's not familiar with us, we've been around since 1966. Skokie was the first municipality to establish their own Fine Arts Commission. So I personally have not been here since 1966, almost. Anyway, we had 7 different programs going on this year, which is very exciting. We had awards for artistic excellence. We gave an individual award to Andrea Siegel for her many years on the Fine Arts Commission, and she's now on the Performing Arts Board. ANC Architects got the group award, and they have been using the front of their location as a gallery space. They have different artists come in to exhibit there, so they're a very welcome part of the community. After a 3-year hiatus, thanks to your wonderful generosity, we have resumed our cultural arts grant program, and we awarded $10,000 of grant money to schools and not-for-profit organizations to support arts programming in the village. If you got our little color handout here, there's a list on one side of the groups who received a grant last year. Some are schools, some are new schools that we haven't given to before. The Skokie community, Skokie Concert Choir, they're back this year, so we gave them some money to help them reestablish themselves. So we felt we were really able to do good work. And my guess is that if we get that money again for next year, we'll have even more applicants, because a lot of the groups had kind of forgotten about us, but now that we're back, I think we'll even see a bigger group of applicants. For the first time in '24, the village established October as Arts and Humanities Month. It's a national month that was our poster. And we tried to incorporate several different things into that. We had an online events calendar, and we got different arts groups and businesses to submit their programming for October, and it was searchable in multiple ways. People could look for events on a certain date, or they could look for dance events, different kinds of things. And also we had a Skokie Through the Lens, which is our photography exhibit. We printed up photos and had a reception for some of the photographers in the lobby during October. We also had our second storytelling event. We had had one the February before, and we had one in October. The theme was Ghosted, and we held it at Take Flight Spirits, and it was sold out. It was really fun to hear the stories, and they weren't all spooky Halloween stories, you know. It could be someone they went on a date with who they never heard from again and ghosted them. But anyway, that was fun. Another new thing that we did is we hosted a networking event. We held that at Sketchbook Brewery for any artists or anyone who lives or works in Skokie and considers themselves an artist. So it could be painters, photographers, musicians, writers, crafters. We had someone who did food design. They designed food to be photographed for menus or stores. So a very interesting group of people. We had a good turnout. And it was interesting to hear them network with each other. And we were able to even put some people together too. There was someone who said, oh, I have some exhibit space. I wish I had some artists to exhibit. And then there was someone who said, oh, I've got art. I don't know where to put it. Come over here, meet this person. We also got feedback from them both the night of the event, and we also solicited feedback after the event. So we have some ideas for things that we can do moving forward based on their suggestions. And we just had our SOAR event, the Student Outstanding Artist Recognition. We have that every year during the month of March, which is Youth Arts Month. And so we just finished that up. It was at Oakton College in their gallery space by the Arts Wing. I know we saw some of you at the reception. I hope that others were able to get there sometime during the month. We had, I believe, 22 schools this year participate. And we had a reception. And if there was one comment that we heard from a few people, it's like, we want to see more of the mayor. There were a few students who really wanted their picture taken with the mayor, and they missed you. So we'll have to refine that a little bit for next year.
I've already been planning.
Anyway, we've been taking on some new projects. We have some new energetic members who are happy to volunteer with things like that. And with your support, I hope that we can continue to do these things and maybe even add something new. Anyone have any questions?
Just a comment.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations, you guys really bounced big. After years of being dormant, you came back with a vengeance. We are so proud to be associated with you.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you, Trustee Klein. It's nice working with a creative group of people. We're very good at brainstorming and everything. So sometimes hard to follow an agenda, but very good at brainstorming. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Kane and beautification and improvement. And Kathy Stevens, that's what Kathy, hi.
Any questions?
We're gonna ask Kathy about trees.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's up there with trees right now, I'll tell you what. Thanks for having us again, and I want to say that we're perfectly content with the budget line and grateful for what we're able to do with those dollars and cents. I'd like to say, I think this beautification commission is still somewhat on a growth curve. Last year or so. Since we met last, we joined up with the Festival of Cultures to raise more awareness of this commission and what we do, and try and encourage native plantings by our residents and promote the awards program and other things that are important to the commission. Our speaker series has really taken off. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but I shouldn't say this. The library actually funds the speaker series. And last fall, since we last met, we had Birds in the Garden. I was amazed on the relationship between bird life and native plants and other landscaping in your yard, and how that can be a mutual beneficial thing from the property owner into wildlife. So that was Birds in the Garden in the fall, and then we just had our speaker from Botanic Garden on edible gardens. And the library, based on feedback from the library, is that these are the most well-attended events that the library has. And that has a lot to do with communications and marketing with the village, and also some independent communication plan by the commission that they try and implement as well. And so we'll continue to have the speaker series twice a year with different topics. By the way, Kathy, feel free to chime in anytime you feel like it.
Great.
Thanks. The awards program, as you know from last year, was overhauled with a major emphasis on native planting as a response to the Sustainability Act adopted in 2022. I want to brag to say that we were already on top of it before that was even adopted, and was happy to see that we were all on the same page with that regard. And so we revamped that with an emphasis on native plantings, edible gardens. We have a new Skokie Best Award that we give out to the top properties in the community. We bring in about, we have maybe 70 or 80 nominations or entries, and we choose about 33 out of that, which is about pretty much all we can handle in that one evening. And all of our commission members actually get out. They drive around and they're on their bicycles with little commission vests and scout properties and leave door hangers for that resident to hopefully follow through and make an entry to be considered for an award. And Arbor Day. We just finished up Arbor Day, thanks to Trustee Klein, who was present for us in place of the mayor. We work really hard, again, with communications and marketing to try and get the general public out to Arbor Day, but we keep failing. I think Earth Day has sucked the life out of Arbor Day, and maybe the fact that it's on a Friday doesn't help us as well. But I have to tell you, I was joking earlier that we really went all out to promote Arbor Day this year, because we're kicking off this Skokie Roots for Tree campaign at that event, which you'll hear about in a moment. And so I'm sitting there with remarks expecting to see 50 people from the neighborhood. And so I'm trying to explain to the little first graders what the Inflation Reduction Act is all about. Right? So I didn't quite go over so well. But Trustee Klein, he jumps in and he made the proclamation actually age appropriate for first graders.
As they were
on the spot.
listening.
So yeah, you did a great job. And then I like to say that this has been kind of the year of delegation. That you often hear that the work of commissions may fall on a few people only, but I think more and more of our commissioners are stepping up and joining our 2 subcommittees, which we started last year, especially the New Initiatives Committee. So they're getting more involved in that. We've had the commissioners that are stepping up. For the first time, we're trying out a tree sale, which coincides with the Emily Oaks Park District tree sale on May 19th. They stepped up to help coordinate the Festival of Cultures. They've stepped up to develop a kind of a planting project somewhere in Skokie that's feasible and workable, that we can do maybe on a Sunday with prep work done by Public Works on a Friday. in order to get more of the community involved in that effort, which is hard for them to do when there's planting projects on an evening or on a weekday. So pleased with that aspect, that more and more commissioners are taking some ownership of some of the things we're trying to do and some of the things we might try to do in the future. The biggest thing we spent a lot of time on in collaboration with Kathy and Liz through Public Works and their stewardship of what the commission is doing is much appreciated, especially the give and take we're having with the Skokie Roots for Trees campaign, which thankfully this board helped fund through grants in combination with the funding from the Forestry Service. So we're just about ready to take a leap with Skokie Roots for Trees, though Kathy and her team have been all around the schools, planting a number of trees. I'll call them symbolic trees right now because they're going to be followed. They might plant 3 trees today, but come back and plant 50 later as time permits. So there's going to be about 157 to, let's just start 157 or more trees planted in the schools, which is something that we really needed to do because that's where the open space is. Not only the schools, but places of worship, residential complexes, businesses, and that's where the open space is. So we're starting with the schools. The grant kind of dictates that because of a particular zone, the economic justice zone that relates to the tree campaign. You've all seen this in some of your packets up until now. So a great start with the school systems, amazing start with the school systems and getting all these trees in the ground, especially on Arbor Days, really phenomenal trees there. Some elements of that campaign will be trying to enlist the support of our block party organizers called tree advocates. We need somebody on the block to kind of spot where a good place is for a tree in a parkway, and then reach out to those neighbors that they know to say, hey, if you got a great place in front of your home to plant a tree, here's how to follow through and request a tree. And marketing communication is very good about helping us develop that and Public Works on the forestry page, the forms necessary to do that sort of thing online. And we're still working out some of the details on what's appropriate and how we approach block party organizers. And that will be worked out with human relations and the village and Public Works in short order. And then naturally, we would love for the mayor to say you can reach out to our commission members too in the village to see if they might be interested in serving as tree advocates as well. You don't have to approve that tonight. You can sort of kind of think about it. So that's basically kind of it with the elements of the tree campaign. Trying to get about 1,000+ trees in the ground. It's a multi-year effort, and I think the goal is to try and get 400+ trees per this year or the next couple of years, something like that. Right, saying that, sorry.
Close.
Close. Okay.
The grant is, the goal for the grant is to plant 450 trees on non-residential, non-single family residential areas in the CGEST area. And we started with the schools because that was kind of, as Liz likes to say, the low hanging fruit. And lots of open space and people that like trees, so schools, and
yeah,
it's a good place to start.
There's a tree canopy goal, and we think it's practical and achievable. And so we're playing our part as a commission to move that along.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all your work, for sure.
Yes, yes.
Are you finding that people are more interested in information about native landscaping? We're getting more residents interested in it. Is it something that we're still doing more education on, understanding what native landscaping is?
You know, it was just the awards program of October was the first time that we granted awards with extra points going toward native. So hard to have a sense of how to quantify that right now, except to say they got the message. Because there were some people that asked why they weren't selected this year. And we have to circle back to them and explain to them that, you know, the emphasis on native plantings and landscape and things like that has changed. And so we spent a lot of time in outreach, like at Festival of Cultures, this plant sale, and other speaker events, handing out information about the awards program. So they have that up front and can consider how they're going to approach their gardening each season. If they wait. I think, I'd like to think it's kind of a welcoming message. With perennials and natives. I don't think we'll ever do away with annual plantings for one reason or the next, or it'd be nice to reduce more and more turf over time, but it's gonna be a prolonged educational effort to, the people that are already into it, they're easy to come along, it's the ones that are just getting new interest, yeah.
I think there is some new interest. I mean, just generally, I see more and more people like covering their grass and putting all, it's not widespread by any means, but it's definitely more than it was.
And I don't think there's the resistance to it that there once was.
For sure.
I remember a time, John probably remembers better than me because he gets the phone calls, but when people started doing the plantings, you would usually get a phone call. They're putting in shrubbery, and this isn't shrubbery. Yes, weeds. Well, I don't think we're getting those kinds of phone calls as much.
No, I agree. I think that's greatly decreased. I don't remember the last complaint of that nature that we've received.
There's a lot of information in the universe too, where this whole thing, not just what we're trying to communicate as communities, other communities are doing it too, and it's becoming more and more mainstream. But we'll take time. And, yeah, James.
I was gonna say, at least from my aspirations, this movie are doing like such a phenomenal job of supporting the commission. The two subcommittees seem to be thriving.
They are really workhorses. They are. Sometimes I feel like telling them to dial it down a little bit because there's a bunch of volunteers.
They're very passionate about native plants.
They are passionate about that, right? That's for sure. Half the time I don't know what they're talking about, but I'm trying to move things forward. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Nice to see everyone. Sure. Hello.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having. It's actually my first budget, so bear with me. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to serve for the community of Skokie and the unlimited and divided support that village officials and mayor's office, especially Vicky and Nick, has provided to us throughout the years. I've been serving for the community commission. It's a great success, and it's a pleasure to serve for this community. It's a very, very honored to be here. So going forward to what commission has been done last several years, one of our biggest success is actually the business of the year contest that we do with the award ceremonies, and we see that more and more small business people are actually inquiring and more interested. If you will see the nomination, what we received the last year is actually the binder is getting bigger and bigger. So I think the village staff is making the binder size is actually more bigger and bigger each year because we're getting more nomination. Year 2023 was a great success, and we have the announcement down on November 18. We start getting a lot of feedback from throughout the presentation and for the November 8 presentation. And what we're doing a little bit different approach on this year. So we are reaching out to the nominations that we received from last year, actually the winners. Reaching out to them and see how that award and the nomination value their business. Is any type of value that added into there. And we have great feedback from the businesses, and especially some of the previous winners. They just don't want to give up that trophy. They keep like their firstborn child. They don't want to give up. They have framed in their lobby with the decoration. So when we try to get it back, they were in tears. We don't want to give this up because it's giving a lot of And same thing we did this year too, we go into business, each business, and we are actually, the commission members are actually going to the business, pre-announce, so we don't want to disturb their business and say that they'll be coming. And so we interview the owners and see how the awards and how this actually validated, how much they appreciate it, and everybody's very much appreciated. That's actually bringing a lot of values and new customers and new culture into the city. So going back forward to the, also we are looking to a campaign, shop locally. That's one of our big things that we are doing this year. We're promoting a constant themes of importance of spending locally in Skokie value and important. That's what something even personally myself, I'm actually in the process of moving to a new home, so I always try to shop. My first priority is actually shop places in Skokie. So when I'm looking for a moving company, I'm looking for somebody who is actually in Skokie, and that's my first priority. So we always encourage people to be small, shops locally. And we have a great discussion that followed by the village staff members, and we have come up with a theme. We have a logo that we've been made a staff presence, printed some Windows logos and put it in the windows of the businesses where they can bring more people into it. The windows, actually the staff, the marketing team, this logo, yeah. So also the the downtown businesses and feedback and getting more sustainability into the business. And we are actually planning to select at least 20 businesses this year that can be the pilot program and the pioneer program of the shop more locally and promote local campaign. That's one thing we were looking at it. We have volunteers, the village commission volunteers are actually, commission members are actually popping in each business that we are selected and to show our village support and our presence into the village. We're here to support your success. The next thing we'll be doing supporting the village sustainability initiative program. There's also Consumer Affairs Commission is actually kind of partnering with the so Lisa Sandsworth, the village sustainability coordinator, is actually coming into our meeting on this May. So this meeting, she will explain the green business program and things like that. The commission is going to assist in putting at least the 30 more business people, business to join into the program to sign a complete business assessment and consider a green business. It is expected business will be trained sometimes in May and June how to go more green and green businesses. The next thing will be also planning to planning for the 2024 Business of the Year Award is coming up. People are very excited about it. The commission has cleared a timeline for the events of marketing, the honors, collecting votes, and celebrating accomplishment. The village board recognition is planned for November 18, 2024. So we are already in. So that's the initial step. We did reach out to our previous winners to see what kind of feedback they can give it to us and what they have learned from this award. So that will give us a great, roadmap what we need to do for this year. So that's the other things the commission try to be more visible in local events like farmers market and the cultural festival programs and things like that. So we try our best to reach out to our communities and local businesses and hear out our community what we can do. But once again, thank you so much for the opportunity serving and appreciate everything. Always approach you. So she's taking part of Carol and supporting us when Carol is not available. She's always there for us. So we're very thankful for everything you guys do.
Any comments or questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Before we move on to the farming arts, can I mention the proposal I emailed about earlier?
Go ahead.
I emailed about this earlier today. Last year during our budget hearings about boards and commissions, I made a kind of policy proposal that we consider consolidating our planning commission and our ZBA. And Mary, I think you really rightly said we should wait a year and reconsider it. I emailed everyone earlier today. A lot of communities have consolidated these bodies because of exactly what we're seeing here in Skokie. A couple of years ago, Evanston consolidated their plan commission and CBA into what they just call a land use commission. Given that in the past year, cases have still remained really low, I'm wondering if it's an issue we could revisit the consideration of consolidating these two bodies.
John, you had some thoughts on that?
Sure. Let me just clarify, help me understand the goal of the consolidation.
Just to kind of simplify, we have, my understanding is ZBA is meeting for about an hour every year. Like it's really, out of all of our boards and commissions at this point, it seems it's necessary, or at least, yeah.
No, thanks for the
Okay,
clarification.
before you answer, can I ask a question? Don't mind, it's a clarification. How many people, serve on each commission?
9.
And the reason I ask is, this is just under consideration, I understand your reasoning, that it's here, et cetera. However, people like to be burned out. And by removing it, you're having citizens feel like they're not involved in Skokie. This is my way of saying, I'm on this commission, I'm helping Skokie, it's a feel good as well, and then you're reducing it by that. Citizens who can be involved.
I would respond by saying, I think we've found, we've created our use of force review board, we've talked about having a housing commission, so I think we create ways certainly for people to be involved.
So what is the
So I
goal?
reduce-
What is the goal of eliminating the zoning?
Reducing.
Let's,
Go ahead, sorry, John, I interrupted you.
let's give John the chance and then.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So, so the ZBA had a very heavy workload years ago. And the issue driving the workload was homeowners that were looking for fence variances. And so the village board established a very specific policy that was codified that eliminated this variance need, and for homeowners to have to advocate that they had special circumstances to get the height they wanted. So the village board established a policy that made it side yard fences are this height for everybody, no need to seek a variance. And so that dramatically reduced the number of cases that the ZBA was hearing. But what the ZBA's function is to provide relief when a homeowner, property owner cannot make their project work within the regulations. And so the village staff in the building department, in the planning department on a daily basis is working to problem solve with property owners, homeowners, businesses, because we live in a built out community that's 10 and a half square miles, there's 2,700 businesses, there's over 20,000 homes, residences, I should say. And so in order for people to invest in their business or their home, sometimes there needs to be a variance. And so the ZBA are trained individuals in conducting a semi-judicial process and listening to the scenario where the homeowner or the property owner has experienced they cannot accomplish what they want to accomplish within the village codes. And so the village staff has the relief to say the ZBA is your opportunity to state your case and for an impartial body that is trained to hear this to make a determination. And so the ZBA only meets when there's cases, but the set schedule allows the village staff to know if a property owner has a need, then they go forward with that process. And so although the caseload may appear to be low, it is a resource that is important for the village to have.
Ralph, I'm sorry.
I'm serious. What's the end result of eliminating?
I wonder if the caseload is so small and staff has already provided so much support, is this work that could just be taken on by the planning commission as part of their regular meeting schedule?
No, the zoning board is a board of final determination. It can only be appealed to the circuit court. The planning commission is an advisory board. They can only come to us. And the zoning board is created by statutes of the state of Illinois and of course Skokie. So it may not be overworked, but it doesn't cost us, they don't meet. And there's no I don't see, if you got a reason, tell me, I don't see the reason to disband it.
I think you could flip it and ask, is there a significant reason for it to exist? And I just point out, there are a lot of Illinois communities that make this decision to consolidate, and at least from everything I've read, it seems like it's for this reason at the same time.
I think every community operates differently. Every municipality has similar problems or issues or regulations that they're enforcing. But they choose, and their structure is slightly different, and so they work within their context. The village of Skokie has 18 commissions that serve various functions. And so the ZBA has a function that is necessary. If the structure that exists needs to be changed, if a policy decision is to change that structure, then that's a policy decision to be made. But just because, I would just caution us that just because X community does it this way and Y community does it that way, it's in the context of how their government structure is set up, their staff is set up, preferences of the elected officials, preferences of the staff. And so if there's some type of review that would be helpful in the board making a determination if the current structure is effective or another structure would be more effective, we can do such a study if that's of interest to the group.
To be clear, I was not at all questioning the value of the work they're doing. I'm just questioning whether that caseload could be taken. It's as a, kind of a combined.
I think the other issue in talking about caseload and workload is that the plan commission, the workflow ebbs and flows. And so the workload, I should say, ebbs and flows. And so at this time, we are scheduling plan commission cases out 8 weeks and more. And so if there is a property owner that is seeking a variance, they would need to jump to the front of the line of that process. And so the other cases and responsibilities of the plan commission then gets pushed. Whereas the ZBA is designed specifically for the purpose of looking at variances. The commissioners are trained. The chairperson is trained and has experience in running this type of meeting. The ZBA meeting is very different. Again, it's semi-judicial. And so it's a different format, a different dynamic, a different exchange of information than a developer that is coming forward to the plan commission and start talking about future land use. And so it would require training of the plan commissioners, and then it would require managing the workload in a way that might be detrimental to people seeking the ZBA services, as well as those individuals that are seeking, or entities that are seeking the plan commission recommendation to the village board. And so I do think there are a number of ramifications to changing the system.
So it's not a simple decision. Mayor, what do you think? I'm curious to hear what you think.
I quite honestly, I know the plan commission pretty well. I do not know the zoning board. John makes a lot of sense to me. Usually he does make a lot of sense to me.
Thank you, Nick.
But I don't know that, I think it's something that we should take a look at. Brian was saying that he's anticipating additional cases coming up. Did I hear him correctly?
He did say, yes.
We've also been informed by the building department downstairs and through Johanna that they're coming forward with some new code provisions concerning housing structure and process and so forth. I have no idea yet what the implications of those in terms of anyone seeking a variance. That's evolving.
People look at it.
We'll come back. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the Performing Arts Center, the board and the fund. Chairman is Coulee. Not at all.
Everybody in us.
Would everybody introduce themselves, so.
I'll introduce everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Franz. I'm the staff liaison to the Performing Arts Center Board and to the center. It is my pleasure to help present the FY25 budget for the center. I'm joined with Lynn Cannon, the executive director of the center, Pat Allers, the corporate internal auditor of VenueWorks. That's the management company that oversees operations of the center. They're nearing their second year with us, and Terry Goulet, the chair of the Performing Arts Center Board. Before I turn over to Lynn, I just wanted to note how wonderful of a job she and all of her staff have done this past year. She's going to talk it far more than I will, but the center has really excelled within the last year, and there's a number of exciting performances coming this summer and within the next year, including the first ever off-site outdoor concert series on June 21st and 22nd. I'm very excited about that. So thank you, Lynn, and I'll turn it over to you.
All right, well, thank you all very much. I appreciate it. I came here last year after just barely getting my foot in the door and didn't really know anybody in the room. So I appreciate everybody's welcoming to the community, and I've been able to work with so many of you in so many different capacities. I really appreciate everybody's support for the Performing Arts Center. We do great, fun things over at the North Shore Center. So a couple of highlights I just want to talk about from 2024. I have to put my readers on. 2024 was a really kind of a bounce back year for the Performing Arts Center. We were able to secure as many events in the center as almost one of our best years ever. So I think that is a great sign of business to come. We've had a wide variety of events, not only from the two tenant companies who put on their great shows in the North Theater for the most part, but we were able to bring in a myriad of artists from across the country, national acts, regional acts. We started working with some local promoters and those foreign language opportunities that have been able to come into our facility and bring a wide variety of new people to the center as well. In 2023 and 24, we had 37 different artists perform 46 different performances just in the center theater for our feature series. So overall, we've had total patron attendance in last year. Over 120,000 people have attended events at the North Shore Center. And we use the building for all kinds of events. We do religious services there. Right now is dance season for the youngsters in the area. So many of you may have your students coming through. Yep, I could tell. Our dance recitals are just starting. So every weekend for the next few weekends, we are going to have anywhere from 8 to 10 different recital performances every single day. And that's on top of what's going on in the North Theater with our shows that are happening there. I think one of the things that we really were focused on in this past year was our commitment to audience development and diversity and trying to find ways to bring new people to Skokie. How do we spread the word about our great gem of a facility here in our town and bring people from all over the area to come in and let them see what we have to offer. So in doing so, we were able to bring a bunch of different artists. Some of the highlights for us were Robert Glasper, a really great jazz musician, great jazz guitarist. And then just about a month ago, we had hip hop's 90s star Talib Kweli. And that was a really fun event. And that was the first time that we kind of created a little front row pit in our theater. So we lowered the orchestra pit about a step down and sold standing room only. So it really changed the vibe of the auditorium so that people were really up and dancing for that show. So those are the kinds of things that we've been working on and trying to really expand the audience and make sure that we're continuing to bring a variety of performances to the center that people will really enjoy. We still do our youth theater groups. We do still bring youth into the theaters. In fact, we've had performances for everyone from, pre-K all the way through the junior high school level. And our standard Peking acrobats were scheduled in February, but some visa issues held them up, and now they will be here next week. So if you haven't gotten your tickets to see the Peking acrobats, Monday and Tuesday next week, come on down. I think we'll, talk about mostly what we are excited about here. Like we said, spreading the word and marketing these shows. We do our marketing in conjunction with our artists. So being able to expand the audience includes expanding to their databases. And when we use a performers database, it brings us an entire new audience of people who are from this area. But when I asked a lot of the people who came to some of these artists who were first timers at the Performing Arts Center this year, where they heard about our shows, they were hearing it from the artists themselves. So they either belong to their website database for an email blast, or whether they see a Facebook post from that particular artist. It really helps to expand people's knowledge of us being here in Skokie. We were able to expand, and now our regular database of emails that we send to on a regular basis is over 120,000 names. So when we announce a show or we have something to say to people, we have a huge database of people who are our customers and who have signed up to be notified by what we're doing there. Social media continues to be a strong source of information dissemination for us, and we're continuing to build on both our Facebook and our Instagram followers. We also continue to partner with our community organizations and, you know, spreading the word through people who are already out and about in the community, being out at the community events, and starting this summer, you'll start to see us involved in a lot more of those as well, since I am a true believer that in order to really succeed is to get out to the community and make sure that we are a part of what everyone else is doing as much as what they can do for us. So in our center operations, we do have 11 full-time employees and approximately 100 part-time employees who work shows for us. We work with the Saints organization, who brings us volunteers to be ushers for our 2 theaters. And they do a great job of staffing our events. In fact, last night we had a Russian language play, and we reached out to the Saints to ask if they had anyone interested to, you know, generally their goal is to be able to see that performance for free. We weren't sure if we would get anyone who would be volunteering for us last night. And not only did we have a full staff of Saints who were able to provide services for us, we had 2 who spoke Russian. And that was a big help for us as we were communicating with people who were Russian language guests and who we would, you know, sometimes have difficulty communicating with. The building itself, as I was saying to John earlier, we're reaching close to the 30th anniversary of the Performing Arts Center. And so we're only about 2 years away from celebrating that milestone. Capital improvements and continue to be a focus, and we've got the DCEO grant that we are working through and making sure that we're keeping the building in top shape. As with any almost 30-year-old building, there are operation systems that need to be continually upgraded and functioning. But we did use the Daniela and Ada L. Rice Foundation grant this year to upgrade our technical services in both theaters. We were able to replace the original ClearCom system, which is used by the technical crews to communicate to each other during events. And so we were able to replace that with some wireless headsets and packs, and the communication system now is flawless. There's no more static, there's no more electrical shocks when they pick up the headsets. All of that is now gone. Both companies and our own technical crew are very appreciative of that. And then we also replaced in the center theater the digital projector to a brand new, upgraded, and able to use for a myriad of performances, including the dance companies who use them as the background lighting and performance, part of their performances. The exterior work, I'm sure if you guys, I've seen many of you at the centers, you've seen the exterior upgrades as they continue to be completed. Our next project is to paint the exterior and the framework for the sails that will be replaced as well. Right now, we just had those taken down a couple of weeks ago. We have a meeting tomorrow morning with the painting contractor, and hopefully that project will be underway momentarily. Then once that's completed, we'll get the landscaping in front completed. That project is also from a grant from our foundation, so we are ready to roll with that as soon as we finish the exterior painting work. Last year, I know I did see many of you at our fundraiser for the foundation. Isaac Mizrahi was our performer, and I know a lot of people were a little skeptical, I will say, of having that performer as our foundation benefit, but I think it went fabulously, and everybody who attended talked highly of that show and how much fun it was and how unexpectedly fun it was. So we had a great event there, and we raised over $22,000 for the foundation at that event. So thank you all for participating and supporting us, because that is something that we enjoy doing every year. And stay tuned, we should be knowing more about our next foundation benefit performances coming soon. We're finalizing that at our next meeting. Looking ahead, I think that we are on the right track and really trying to make sure that we are putting ourselves and our focus and continuing to drive business to that performing arts center. The more people we can bring into the community and through those doors will help keep our revenues growing. One of the good things that we did in the 22-23 years was to increase some of our concessions offerings and opportunities for people to purchase concessions. And between fiscal year 22 to this past year, we were able to improve our concession sales by about $100,000 over that time. Now, granted, some of that was due to the fact that we had more events, but also because we were able to have more points of sale and people did not need to stand in a line. Sometimes you see a line of people and you think it's going to take forever and you don't even bother. We were able to keep the people moving through, and then at intermissions, which we've been encouraging acts to have intermissions. That's another thing that helps us out if there's an intermission. So we're continuing to grow that way as well. As Alex mentioned, we are going to share some flyers. These are about the North Shore Center's off North Shore event this summer. It'll be a 2-day festival, and we've been working very closely with Alex and the Park District to make sure that we are able to put on such a wonderful event here in Skokie. We are looking forward to having some wonderful talent, and I can't wait to have this, fun type of outdoor event for a change of pace and a part of the series of events that will be happening outdoors in Skokie in the summer, since indoor events are not as popular, and when we have the opportunity to be outside, who would rather stay inside? We don't want that to happen. I think overall, expenses wise, I think we're always very cautious. We have been working with a utility broker to keep our electric rates down. We've been keeping very close tabs on all of that. Everything is inching up, as you know, but we are focused on making sure that those utility costs stay in line with what our budget expectations are. One increase that we have seen over the past few years, the general liability insurance increases have continued to rise. We do our very best to keep those expenses low. We improved our staff training. We're making sure our emergency procedures and crowd management procedures are in place, and that we have a fully trained staff to be able to handle those emergencies if and when they occur. And then we expect everything, including our event schedule, to stay on track and maybe even increase a few more events this year. So be on the lookout. If you're not already on our mailing list, please make sure that you join us so that you can make sure that when you see an event that piques your interest, that you can attend with us. That kind of wraps us up.
I get asked only one question when it comes to the center, and that is, where do I eat? So I'm just wondering, is there any kind of cooperative thing going with area restaurants that I can direct people to?
Yes, so we are, actually, that's a good question, because that's one of the things that's a focus for one of my staff members this year, is to try to put together a dining guide for our venue, which is something that had been done previously. It had kind of dried up during COVID. They didn't stay up on top of that, but we're working with the restaurants in many different ways. Obviously, having Jameson's right next door is a benefit and a detriment to those who try to eat there when they aren't aware that we are having an event. In fact, it's not just there. Bar Sienna across the street, many of the restaurants in the mall and in the area fill up on nights when we're having events. So we're now doing our part to get out to them and finding ways that we can expand their exposure inside our building so that we can, share the information back and forth. We know that we want to be able to tell people the best places to go to eat, and we want them to be able to share their name inside our 4 walls as well.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Any questions? We're good. Mayor, nice to see you again. Thank you.
All the goals.
Yeah.
Good, well, that's our goal.
Thank you.
It worked.
Thank you, no problem.
Yes.
Best behavior.
On the grass.
Oh, yeah.
Grab your one
Well, then go get
You know, I want to hear something, but.
What is this, man? Come sit here. How you doing?
Hey, trustee Robinson.
Uh-oh.
Already.
Next item on the agenda is Corporation Council.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everybody. We're within the big budget book on page 88. We're just going to go through some highlights. I'm sure you've all had time to review it beforehand. As we know, the role of Corporation Counsel's office is broad. I would say some of our days are hectic, some of them are frenetic, always demanding. And it's largely because there's hardly a division or department in the village as a whole that does not engage with us and engage on a regular basis with us. There's also hardly an outside government entity, where the schools, the Skokie Park District, the library, other municipalities, Chamber of Commerce even, municipal MWRD, Cook County, we're constantly engaged in conversations to work through programs and projects collaboratively with them. And then there's also numerous businesses and residents that find their way to our counter to try to find help or resolution or to collaborate on new ideas. And we enjoy every aspect of it. So with me, of course, tonight are Assistant Corp Counsels, Barb Mangler, Avi Funk, and Jim McCarthy. And while to a certain degree, they all fill specific roles, whether it be handling court calls and so forth, or handling the ordinance process, or handling general litigation. We really are interchangeable, and often a lot of the work you find has come through a collaborative efforts amongst all of us. In terms of touching on some of the items that are in our report in terms of goals and objectives, obviously we provide legal counsel to the village and the village manager. We strategize with the village manager and staff on projects and programs. Some of the examples recently is a lot of what's going on at the east end of Main Street was with our work and collaboration, pinpointing the ability to expand the liquor district down that way, which we felt would be compatible with the changes in terms of commercial development. Also working on the zoning changes that we've put in effect there. And a lot of that is to take concepts that we discuss around the building and find ways to put them in a consistent way into the municipal code. And to, on one hand, protect the integrity of the municipal code, but on the other hand, to make sure that it's a living entity that we can use to expand and enhance the village with. Some of the strategizing we also do with the village manager and staff on projects and programs had a lot to do, for instance, with agreements with Westfield and the Park District recently, when we were going to have the spring greening program. And at the last minute, there was a request for a lot of indemnification language and contract language. And when I say at the last minute, I mean, I was already on a weekend vacation, and we had to engage in telephone calls back and forth and work and develop and revise the language there and then. Also, by example, the new project and Skokie Boulevard in Cleveland, the agreement there. These are all things that really take up tremendous amount of time, both weekday and weeknight and weekend. And we actually enjoy the process and the engagement. Some other new developments that we've worked on and are coming back to you, the hate incident, the whole idea of tracking hate incidents is something that we developed, we'd heard about, thought about, and then had conversations with Trustee Robinson and Trustee Kuhn. We've been working with Mike downstairs in terms of the whole way that the village organization can absorb and become part of that, as well as with the police department. And the integration part of it is not just to track and study the data, but to know what to do with that data to have an influence in the community. And that's where then we're going to be turning to the Human Relations Commission. And there's been some discussion about that. And these are things that we work on to generate new ideas. In terms of providing advice on code enforcement, something not as altruistic perhaps as working on the need to track hate incidences, but which has a daily effect. Rat abatement became an issue when there was a burrow on someone's private property, on the private home, and they're not around and not available. Are our employees allowed to go onto that property and to administer ways of dealing with the rat burrow? And you know, that may seem obvious to everyone, but private property by the Supreme Court of the United States is private property. We did find case law in the state of Illinois, which is very strong, and was able to craft a way for our inspectors to go onto property and to deal with those things. Likewise, we've been working a lot with departments in terms of the massage facilities in and around town and in storefronts and toughening up some of those rules. You're going to be seeing some of that come to you. We know we did a lot with pawn shops and e-cigarettes. These are all things that we all know in our gut perhaps we want to do, but to find a consistent and legal way to approach is part of it. I would touch on a couple of other things. We've been working heavily with the community and with the Economic Development Commission with video gaming, and that's something that maybe we may be bringing to the board in recent weeks. Affordable housing, of course, you know, we're bringing back after a tremendous amount of discussions and revisions. I would say the other thing I would call out at this time is the work in terms of the farmers market and wine bars in terms of our alcohol code, and working with the liquor commissioner and with the manager staff and Nick in particular. We're always looking for ways to maintain the integrity of our liquor code, which is designed to restrict certain applications of liquor in small facilities like gas stations and so forth, but which we want to keep nimble and respond. So we find now there's an interest in a wine bar. And now that seems simple, but when is a wine bar and when is it a bar? And what are the limitations on what can go on it? And so we worked hard with staff and we'll be bringing something shortly on that. And there was an interest in some kind of tasting facility or opportunity at farmer's market for locally brewed beers or other types of liquor. And those are things you'll see coming your way. So that's a quick overview of some of what we do. Budget-wise, you, I'm sure, saw that we've reduced our budget since 2022, actually over $170,000. But even over last year, our budget is reduced by $14,000, offset by some other expenses. It's still $10,000 in savings. So we continue to plug away and recognize that there are financial needs within the village to hold our costs down, and we work hard to do that. We also, of course, do generate some revenue, which is not really a purpose of our department, but it is something that results from the various code violation processes, moving violation processes. All of that is handled not just in terms of prosecution, but you should understand the administration of it from beginning to end falls on our staff internally in terms of preparing the docket, working with the administrative law judge, calling the cases during the hearings. All of this is stuff that takes tremendous time, because then afterwards and before, there's a lot of record keeping and letters to be sent out. So that's, I think, a quick overview, unless there are questions.
Comment, like what you said, there's gonna be something coming to the board about video gaming.
Yes.
Can you say more about that?
Sure. I would say well, first of all, we know the state of Illinois approved video gaming 20 years ago, or 15 years ago. At one point, pre-COVID, probably 2 or 3 years before COVID, there was some discussion at the Economic Development Commission and out of the administration of our office as well, to look at video gaming and how it might be prudently brought to the village. There are pros and cons. We know that some communities, it has populated in ways that you drive down a street and all you see on storefronts is video gaming, video gaming, video gaming. It was rejected by the Economic Development Commission in that first effort because there was a question of whether or not it was really harmonious or purposeful for the village. But now we come to a time where we see it has been used in different places. We have some recommendations that will become discussion for the board as to how we might be able to, we think, contain it and still help the restaurants that are coming out of COVID and that have really suffered over recent years. And so it's a balancing act, and it'll be a question for you all as trustees. Does this fit? Is it harmonious? Is it something we want? Does it really help restaurants or not? I'll leave you with this. Out of each machine, whatever dollars are generated, I don't know if you're familiar, a third goes to the restaurant, a third goes to the purveyor of the machine, and a third goes to the state of Illinois. The village of Skokie gets 5% of the third that goes to the state of Illinois. So do not really look at this as a revenue issue for the village of Skokie. This is an issue of whether or not you as trustees will feel that it's conducive to the village and is it helpful to the restaurant.
Or I hope we can have a kind of a more general policy discussion that's in one of our future meetings before we see the word.
We could certainly bring a memo type of thing that would generate some of the discussion and give you some of the history if the mayor feels that's appropriate.
About the gambling, just go, I go to the Village of Niles website and I study the market. That'll give me the best indication about the money that's generated. I've been using
For the
Niles.
state, for the state.
State.
For the
What?
state.
No, for the, you know, the restaurant, you know, they're the one, they're making.
The
Restaurants, yeah.
the other part of the question becomes what regulations, what limitations, what requirements are placed on the restaurant over and above what the state requires. And that's where the discussion is more than academic, it's really purposeful.
Michael, I also wanted to ask about our use of outside counsel and how that's factoring into our budget. I want to ask, like, how much are we spending on outside attorneys and how much of an increase in spending are we seeing compared to previous years?
Well, a lot of outside counsel is not hired through the corporation counsel's office. And through the corporation counsel's office, primarily, we will go to outside counsel on, let me back up. We pride ourselves on being able to do what needs to be done. So when it comes to drafting the development agreement, I draft with the assistant corp counsels, the development agreement. When we're working on a new draft or an ordinance, the stuff stays in-house. That's our goal. It hurts us to send it out. On the other hand, by example, when we developed this idea for 8,000 North as to how the parking lot could be achieved and protect the community with the potential of a windfall if buildings ever sold, et cetera, et cetera. A parking lot lease is a very technical animal. So we drafted in-house, but we did use outside counsel to advise on it. So I would say that's an example. We've touched on outside counsel. I'm looking to see, on some litigation that is ongoing without getting into it beyond that, but it required, even though I was a litigator, I am a litigator, but was a litigator, including at the state's attorney's office for decades, it was a particular issue within it that we did hire outside counsel. I would say it's been within our department in these types of routine matters, pretty much the same. It spikes at certain points, and I don't know that I've ever drafted a line bar for you. We could certainly look at it, but it's not at all a major part of our budget in that regard. We would add to that.
Also ask you, last year and a half, a fair amount of staff time and energy in the department has been kind of responding to the Attorney General's investigations about our teenage violations.
Alleged violations.
What is being done kind of within the department to help prevent these violations and kind of help free up your staff from having to respond to these investigations?
Well, first of all, it's not contained solely within our department at all. It's collaborative with the village manager's office. It's collaborative with our officer who deals with FOIA and OMA issues. This is nothing that any one person or group can take on. There's general knowledge. So that's, first of all, it's a shared responsibility. Secondly, I wouldn't always assume that these matters are avoidable, which I think is somewhat implied there. We saw, as you saw within the Open Meetings Act, you had Madigan who issued a statement to handle something one way, And that's what we were following along with 50% probably of the municipalities, which we know because we are constantly in communication with, I mean, I meet every 6 weeks with corp councils from Oak Park and Evanston, and we really are collaborative on what we're doing. So there were many that fell into that. So I don't think one assumes just because there are discussions, questions, and rulings that in and of itself it is either avoidable or in and of itself right or wrong. It is part of legal process. It is part of judicial process, and it's also part of municipal process where we engage in finding paths to resolve matters that are not always clear cut and easy. That set aside, I would say to you that the village manager has spoken to us, and we are looking at perhaps some kind of guidelines on handling closed session hearings and proceedings. And we're working diligently. There again, we will, without cost, turn to some of our compatriots and other municipal lawyers and share. Takes time to do it right. Anyone who expects us to turn around, write that in a week has to spend a few days in our office, because sometimes we start something and we're interrupted. Sometimes we start something and we get a critical matter. Sometimes John Lockerbie walks in and changes our agenda, not to mention the mayor. So we're responsive to so much, but it is on the agenda. I'm looking at Barb, we have started on it. And it will take a little bit of time because, again, we can collect from all these different municipalities. We can speak to experts. We still have to make it fit us. And we do have an identity of who we are and what we care about. And it can't sometimes just be done with a broad brush.
I'm glad you're working on some guidelines for sessions. So since there have been at least 6 investigations now, I'm wondering, has the department considered just doing a comprehensive review of the village's compliance with OMA and FOIA?
It's interesting that you call it an investigation. They're not investigations. There have been questions raised over processes that were followed, and there have been rulings one way or another. Some of them, of course, we know at least 2 of them were rejected by the AG, which you should mention as well, but at least we certainly mention everything, right? To give a total honest picture, we should mention everything. So we know of 2, I think you're aware of 2 that were rejected. Okay, so we should put it all in context. Yeah, I think the first step is really to look at the closed session process and then to go on from there. I would say to you that some of the rulings have brought clarification. As you know, we speak again with other communities and other attorneys, and they all share ideas, and we certainly teach and learn from it, and we'll continue to do so. To try to codify it is certainly something that would be part of the process, and we do it.
My question is related to the board. I was wondering when are we going to resume our annual performance reviews of our corporation council and village committee?
I don't know. I want to find out what our legal counsel feels we can do, and we have some guidelines. So as soon as we get the guidelines, I'll be ready to call for an executive session.
So it's a suggestion that we shouldn't have an executive session to do a performance review until we have these guidelines.
Or at least we have a good idea of the guidelines. I want to be very careful about what we can and what we're not supposed to discuss.
Well, OMA is pretty clear that we can have a performance review as long as our discussion pertains to performance and conduct.
I agree, and that's the ambiguity of the law. I think we all learn, unfortunately. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Will Evans, Board of Fire Police Commission, and Chief Barnes, Police Department.
Early next.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hello.
Everybody knows.
How you doing?
I'm well.
Everybody knows me, I've been around.
Well, why don't you read it out?
So there, I'm gonna try to get your time back tonight. I don't have a lot to go over, and that's why I asked the chief to be here. If we had room, you know, we don't have to segue because we're, in many ways, I work for him. I work for the village, but, you know, we spend a lot of time. I was actually in the chief office a couple of days ago because our job, you know, and I'm sure you got all the numbers because I didn't plan to go over. I mean, you've seen this, I'm sure. It's not a lot that's changed. It's not a lot that's different. One thing that is different, you know, and thanks to the village manager, you know, we met with him probably every year and just talk about what strategies that we can use. And this year it's been very positive with his help to, you know, try to get ahead of the game. You know, we went for a while here, just like we're spinning our wheels, not being able to keep up with the changes, you know, with the difficulty post George Floyd of trying to hire police officers. It has been very tough, but some of the changes are made, having an officer spend his full-time job going out recruiting. And I'm sure the chief would say, I'll say this for him, he could really use two to get out there because we see the benefit from it. You know, we see the benefit when we talk to candidates come in, you know, they say, well, this is how they found out about the position. And that's why, you know, you look at the numbers where we've made good inroads in trying to come to our staffing number, because as you know, as long as we're not at that number, it affects the quality of life of our officers in the field. Again, that's who it affects the most because they're working overtime, they're not with their families, and coming up to staff helps them, you know, do their job better out in the field. So some of the changes to recruiting, you know, thank you very much, Village Manager Lockerbie, in discussing this, you know, and recognizing this problem and trying to be proactive over here. But we also have to do more. We have to keep looking. You know, I think I won't be satisfied because I feel it's my job to fill that gap. You know, the commission, and I share this and speak for all of them. We spend a lot of time, that hour or so we have, you know, we don't get the food at our meetings, you know, that helps them. But we spend a lot of time, even not in the meeting, because of the amount of work and paperwork we do so that we can make our meetings more efficiently. We do a lot of review outside the meeting so we can come there prepared. But any questions for me at all? Any questions? No questions before I already.
Question on that? Yeah, of course. As far as recruitment, I know we're on the list, you know, just like everybody else, looking for a few good men to serve in the village. What extra or specific ways are you guys outreaching as far as develop any partnerships with colleges, community colleges, instead of just
I think that's a Deborah and Chief answer, but I would say, well, to me, we've done a lot of that. The greatest benefit I feel that we've had, and this is again feedback from the people we're interviewing, is that outreach, having that officer out there recruiting again and again. How did you find out? Because, you know, you had, you know, one of the officers were out there and I talked to him, and that's why I'm here. So all of those things and going out and we can do that hands-on, being out there, I think that's our biggest bang for the buck, you know, and we can do it, keep doing it and do more of it in order for us to come up to staff, you know, and again, is why I know you look here, you know,
I ran operations, if you look at that bottom line, if you look at your labor costs that's out there. But what's hidden is attrition. We have that turnover, yeah, we hired somebody and we just lost, I think, 2 officers. You know, we're getting some people back, but that is just a number, a person that is really not, it doesn't replace that other person for a while. So that's on the books, the cost is there. You might think it's been filled, but it's not filled. They didn't get out there, they got to get trained, you know, it may take, you know, a while for them to be out there sitting in a patrol car by themselves, being fully, you know, working. So recruiting, active recruiting, I think that's what makes the difference. You know, we can brainstorm and I can tell you some other things what I feel that we need to do. But you know, we have a great partner here. You know, I really, you know, I know John probably hears a lot from me and he's swill again. You know, but I think we've been proactive as a team together with Deborah and, you know, the village manager and the chief before, his staff, that this is, it's important to us. You know, our first responders is our first line of defense, either fire or police. You know, when people are running away, they're running to the problem. We say that when we go in and have, you know, when we come to Village Hall and swear officers in, but we mean that. That means a lot to us. You know, the commissioners, and I'm sure I speak for them. We put our hearts into this and our time to go and help our village. I mean, yes, it's for the police force, but our job here is to help our village to be a great place to live, a safe place to live. That's all I have.
I have a question. I'm reading a great deal in the paper, I've called John numerous times about this, because it's concerning to me about lateral
Transfers.
hires. And, you know, we've talked about where we are in comparison. I'm concerned about officers looking in other villages because we're not up to par maybe in terms of salaries. So is that a concern that we're looking at, that we have people who might go to another village or a municipality because they're getting paid more and they get, you know, they're lateral?
I think we've just lost our first lateral worker. Yes, yeah, we just lost a lateral transfer. You know, it's just a history. You know, first of all, lateral transfers has been an excellent tool for us. You know, we started this a few years ago, changed the ordinance, and it has really helped us get some very quality officers. You know, I would say across the board, very proud of the hires that we've made, that we've been very selective. We also had some, you know, why we did this is that we had a couple of officers that they were laterals, but they started over, they came at the entry level. But they were, you know, there's one, you know, that I use as, I would say, I won't mention his name, you know, to embarrass him, but almost our example, he came in, he transferred here, and it's like, what a resource that we received. And then we changed it so that it's been very attractive. So I don't know, I'm sure the chief can speak to that, but there's nothing but pluses to me with laterals. And the people that we've interviewed have been high quality. Like, can we hire them right now when they walk out of the interview? That's the type of people we've been hiring.
Right, so the gang is good to know, if I hadn't thought of that lens, but I'm concerned about those who are looking elsewhere because
Well, that's concerns across the board. That's not just with laterals that may have come here. That same concern is for our officers that have been here for any time. There's a high demand for police officers. We have talented ones. There's a high demand across the board. The plus we have in Skokie, that it's a great place to live. People who come in, we've got an officer that came from Alaska, you know, here, because he wanted to live in school. His wife wanted to come back. And I know I embarrassed him because he's probably like, why you do this? Will. But anyway, but what we have here is people want to come here to live and raise their families. That is one of the big attractions. So yeah, they can go to other places, but you know, we're going to stand on this is a great place to live. We can't compete across the board. You know, you can always compete in the salaries, but that's just a number. We have to offer other value. But salaries help a lot. You know, we don't have to be leading, but you know, the more competitive we are, the more competitive we are, the more you're going to retain staff. And not retaining staff just cost us.
Chief, George, would you like to do?
Absolutely, absolutely. Is Deborah finished? Deborah, wait, you staying here? You staying here?
Way to put her on the spot.
We do this all day. You don't understand. She probably gave me a couple of looks. No, we had before the meeting start. I said Deborah's gonna give me a look while I'm talking. All right. This is.
I just feel the love in this.
This is all day. And I'm only one of 5. She gets it now from everybody.
Rules will come back to follow.
I want to hear it later.
I'll wait for Will to finish.
So
Thank you, appreciate that. Before I get started, I'd just like to introduce relatively new command staff. I've been in their roles here, but this is my first time in this role, and their first time in this role. So Deputy Chief John Oakley, Denise Franklin, Management Analyst Taylor, and Comm Director Barku. So we brought backup. We like to bring backup, but start out by just thanking everybody. I think it's always worth repeating that our officers and our command staff really values the continued support from you all, and also I think it's worth noting thank you, Alex, John, and Nick, for kind of helping us, shepherd our budget through the process. There's a lot of work that goes into it from our people, but we do really appreciate their guidance. Want to start out by highlighting some things from fiscal year 24. I would describe it as an exciting year, but with a lot of transition. Back in December and January, we underwent our ILEAP, Illinois Law Enforcement Accreditation, reaccreditation. We have been ILEAP accredited since approximately 2012. A lot of work goes into that accreditation process. A lot of work goes into it upfront throughout the year, collecting proofs, amending policies, staying on top of legal updates, staying on top of specific training mandates and such. So we hold ourselves to that high standard all year, and then the actual accreditation, we have a third party or a couple third parties come in and evaluate our policies and make sure that we have proofs that we're holding those standards. So we're really proud of that. We also think, we talked a little bit about recruiting already. We think that it helps with that. It shows us as kind of a beacon that tries to do right all the time. In addition to that, we have promoted a great deal of new supervisors in our department this year. We've promoted 5 new sergeants. I don't know if this is a record, but it's pretty close, I think. 5 new sergeants, 2 new commanders, 2 new deputy chiefs, and then myself, the chief. So that's exciting. Really excited about the direction of the department in the future. Really great young leadership. Obviously, we need to develop that leadership, right? Additionally, on the hiring front, we've hired 7 officers in the last 12 months off our initial entry list and 2 lateral candidates for a total of 9 officers in the last 12 months. We've also hired and trained 3 community service officers, animal control officers, and 3 communications operators. So ton of hiring, ton of training, helping us to get towards that goal of being fully staffed. Some other highlights, quarterly beat meetings. We're in our 3rd year. We've continued to tweak those to help that program evolve. It's become a really successful community engagement tool. We get great feedback from the community during those meetings. People show up, they learn about what's being experienced in their beat, but they also come to us with their questions and concerns. And it's a really good opportunity for us to educate them on new programs and initiatives. This last round, we introduced some of the beat meetings to Mary, our new comfort dog. In the past, we have introduced people to the co-responder program, helped them get to know about this resource that's so important for them to be aware of. So those beat meetings, we've done some things like we've tried to find times that are conducive to really busy families to try and get more people to attend. We've changed the location to support some local businesses where they're willing to host, bring people into a local coffee shop or something like that. That also helps them, maybe brings people to a business they haven't been to before. So that's been continuing to grow and evolve, and we're proud of that. Co-responder team is now what I would consider a well-known community resource. They are continually praised to me, to themselves, to, I think probably everybody in the room has heard praises to them at some point. Everybody, all the stakeholders that interact with them really feel that that's a program that's been incredibly positive. It's been a great tool for our officers in our department. They only become really more effective as they interact with people and more people become aware with them. And also, obviously, as more people become aware of them, there's more resources available to the community. Another highlight, big initiative that took a lot of work from our people, and I'm proud of the job they did with it, is we successfully trained our entire workforce and implemented the Axon Fleet 3 camera system and interview room system, which interfaces directly with our Axon body-worn cameras and our evidence.com digital evidence storage cloud. So that was a huge undertaking. It's been very well received. It's an incredibly useful tool. It's state of the art, and it's really user friendly, and we're happy to have it. Probably our biggest initiative this year, which will also be our maybe biggest initiative last year, is we've continued to find ways to shift to a more proactive approach to hiring practices. Pardon me. Included in changes just in the last year or so has been online proctored testing, HR. That was a big lift on the part of HR. So thank you, Deborah, for helping us out on that. Online proctored testing allowed us to, rather than just advertise one test date, and if it didn't work out for potential candidates or if it conflicted with another agency, then not have that availability. This allowed people to sign up and take the test remotely in a proctored setting. And we feel that it's been successful. We've seen the numbers drastically increase compared to our previous tests. Something else we've done is we've trained and staffed a full-time recruitment officer, which will stole my thunder on a little bit. That has been funded through an Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board grant. It's been an incredibly effective tool for us to continue to touch potential police candidates, whether it's job fairs at colleges, community colleges, giving station tours, giving ride-alongs, going to power tests and other police recruiting events. It's really important that we make sure that we're reaching all different facets of the community. We've partnered, with college athletic programs to try and see if we can talk to the coaches and make sure that they're aware of what a great opportunity this career could be to some of their candidates. So we've really, we've jumped all in on that full-time recruitment officer. I was just at a conference on Friday in a room full of chiefs. And we were watching a presentation on recruitment and retention. And the presenter asked, how many of you are currently staffing a full-time recruitment officer? These are a variety of different shapes and size departments, right? And 3 hands went up. And of course, I was one of them. So that made me feel good, because obviously we need to do things that others are not doing and think out of the box. Something else that we've been doing and we are continuing to do is try to forecast future retirements and vacancies in order to begin the hiring process and the training process and replacing people ahead of vacancies. Shifting to talk a little bit about some of our initiatives for fiscal year 25. Everything I just said is still a primary focus, to make sure that we codify these things and that we do all of these things as standard operating procedures. We're currently in the process of developing a strategic staffing plan. Okay, that goal of that strategic staffing plan is to keep us fully staffed, or as close to that number as we can. Obviously, there's always going to be unanticipated things, but the closer we can stay to that number, that's going to impact our ability to train people more. It's going to impact the ability to give people more of their days off that they request. It's just going to help the workforce as a whole. It's going to make us a more effective and cohesive department. Training will be another large undertaking in fiscal year 25. Talked about hiring 9 officers. Those 9 officers are all in varying stages of training. So we have really promoted some changes to our field training program. We've adopted some technology changes to help us keep that program as user-friendly as possible for our field training officers. Additionally, we do have, I talked about the newly promoted supervisors. Those supervisors are going to require additional training for their duties and responsibilities as well. So we're prioritizing that as well. We're really excited about the purchase of our new fleet vehicles. I think we have 4 electric and 4 hybrid in this budget. So for those of you that are unaware, supply chain issues over the last several years have really resulted in a reduced ability of us to replace and outfit new squad cars. The way I describe these squad cars to people that I take around our building is these are really the offices for our patrol officers. That's their office, that's their workstation, that's where their computer is, that's where the phone is, where they're calling back victims. So we really, and they're spending a lot of time on the road, so we really want them to have the newest technology, the best technology, and the safest vehicles that they can possibly be in. That's obviously keeping our most valuable asset, our people, safe. So another initiative, animal control and programs and plans. As I'm sure you all noticed, there was an increase in that aspect of the budget. They have been working diligently and continue to, and will have to continue to through the year, to find alternative shelter and adoption resources. There's been a tremendous increase in abandoned pets post-COVID, and it's been taxing on animal control, it's been taxing on animal shelters, it's been taxing on adoption facilities. We're really trying hard to partner with anyone we can and look for out-of-the-box unique ways that we can help to, lessen that burden. Final thing I'll mention is back in 2010, we enhanced our wireless alarm services. This offered our residents and our businesses much better technology, obviously better public safety service, and it also decreased false alarms from things like aging telephone lines and such. So since that time, the program has grown dramatically to between 400 and 500 alarms. We are adding an admin specialist position specifically with the duties related to the wireless alarm responsibilities. This position has been funded, self-funded through the wireless alarm fund. Those are some of the things that we're excited about coming in. Any questions or clarification?
Thank you, first of all, for addressing the retirement. We are looking ahead with retirement. But I would like to know how many officers are out for extended time, length of time because of health or other issues. So how many? It's great to say you have a staff of acts, but of acts who's really.
Sure. So that number ebbs and flows. I think currently we're about 3, but it changes, right?
Is that manageable?
I prefer to be 0.
Well, please.
So the lower that number is, the easier it is for us to staff effectively.
Right. And when does it become unmanageable? I don't want you to get to that point, I'm just curious.
Sure. We hope to never get to that point. I can't give you an exact number when that happens. There's levers that we pull here and there. If there's an increase in injuries, injuries happen, right? It's a physical job. Our workforce spans 4 different generations. It takes its toll over time, and people do need to go out and have things fixed with surgeries and such, as everybody does, right? So when there are an increase in injuries, we'll try and take steps to rebalance. If one shift has 3 people out injured, that's really more difficult to manage than if there's 1 person injured on each of the 3 shifts. So it's really complicated. It's constant discussions, constant communication, trying to forecast if somebody is having a surgery, the earlier that they let us know about it, if they're comfortable letting us know ahead of time, the easier it is for us to adjust staffing accordingly.
That's a comment I'd like to make is I'd like to thank your department, because I know that July 4th is coming up again, and I know that the Dash is coming up again. And the increased security and the professionalism of everybody involved was extraordinary. I think people felt very safe, and it really speaks volumes to the teams that work together. And thank you, because I know it's a very difficult. Both are very difficult times.
They put a lot of planning into it. I will relay your thoughts because they do an excellent. The team that plans it does a fantastic job, and then obviously the whole workforce, everybody, forgoes days off, and everybody chips in. And it's good to see the camaraderie that comes from it.
Trustee Robinson.
I was gonna thank you for all that work as well. I know we've been looking at body cams. We're just curious to know how are we in that department?
How are we in regards to,
Body cams.
the body cams are incredible technology. We are, I mean, it's fully rolled out, fully implemented. Obviously, you know, there was a little bit of a learning curve at first, but it's almost, I would say it's second nature, you know, everybody's accustomed to it. It's a technology, so, you know, sometimes battery life and such can, you know, but we have the best technology that is currently out there, in the body-worn cameras that we have. And, it certainly simplifies things like use of force investigations. A lot of times it simplifies criminal investigations. It's a really useful tool. I love it. I wish we had them for longer.
I'm a numbers guy. How many sworn are you right now?
We're hoping to go to 113. Is the budgeted? Is that the number?
If this budget passes, will you be at 113? Or will we be at 115?
We will be at 113 if this budget passes.
At 113, so that is an increase of 2?
That is correct.
Okay, I sat here, I listened to Will talk, and I had the privilege of hearing Deputy Chief Franklin speak. And they both touched on the same thing, is manpower. Now, trying not to try to sound naive, but what would it take if we could take this budget to 150? Could we do it? We got a manpower, as I see it, and I'm an amateur, we have a manpower problem.
So can I clarify something? I feel strongly that the increase in 2 spots is great. We welcome it. I want to get to I have some work to do to get my workforce to that number. So, you know, we have vacancies and we have a list that's going to become active hopefully soon. We just closed our testing process and we're going to start hiring right away off of that list. So we have room to grow right now, and we're going to work feverishly, like I said, through the strategic plan to try and get to full staff.
All right, but the question really, I guess I'm asking is the full staff number. That is like a very debatable number right now. Because historically, we've gotten different numbers. And I don't want to see, as Will made reference to, that this takes a toll on the workforce, so to speak. So if I had a crystal ball or I had a wish, I would just wish this number was up. Only if for no other reason I can sleep better. So that's what I want to ask, is if we can increase it.
I think it's a great question to ask. So staffing is a very complex issue.
Not me, I don't have to do
it. I mean, we should start with each police officer, you know, salary and benefits is an expense in excess of $150,000. And so, you know, the village has a commitment that it hasn't laid people off in the past. So when we hire a police officer, we make a commitment for a career, hopefully 30 plus years. Sometimes it's closer to 25, 26 years, but we're making a commitment, you know, at least $150,000 annually. $3 million. Right. And so that is the issue with staffing. We have a hiring freeze in place, including the 2 police officers that remain frozen, of about 40 positions. And so organization-wide, every single department is doing less staff today, doing the work that they're responsible for with less staff than they had prior to 2008. And so we're in 2024. So within the police department specifically, one of the things that we have done through the last few years in order to add staffing capacity without affecting an increase in the budget is to add animal control to the police department. And by moving animal control from health over to the police department, there was an administrative support person that retired. And so instead of filling that position that was largely dispatched for animal control, we moved animal control to the police department, and the 911 center, the dispatch center, became that dispatch point for animal control services. But in addition, the way that we staff animal control, the workload is not busy 8 hours a day for each of those animal control officers. So they're now also serving as a community service officer, which is the civilian position in the police department. And so the intent was every employee wants to enjoy their shift and to be busy the whole shift. And so this was a way to make the workload full for the, we needed to provide specialized service, but we also want to have a full workload for the employees. So it was able to benefit the police services by adding animal control officers to the CSO.
You're increasing the community service officer.
We did, that was a couple of years ago. And so, and we continue to refine that process. But the civilian resource is helping to compensate for the frozen sworn personnel for the police officers. And so when we sit here and say we want to get to 115, because that was a goal several years ago, that doesn't necessarily take into consideration how we have civilianized or added some additional civilian resources. And so that's just an example of ways that we're trying to be efficient. Another way that we're being more efficient is using technology. Being able to use the flock cameras in the community, being able to look at our response protocol and see how many officers should be present in order to serve the public, but also have a safe working environment for our sworn personnel. And so that was an area that was studied and continues to be refined. The beat structure in the community was refined so that the beats are not geographically identical, but they are geographically workload similar. And so by balancing that out, we're able to better serve the community with our staffing resources. And we staff a certain way for the busiest shift, and the shift that's a little bit less busy has a slightly different staffing level. And so these are all the variables that the chief and his staff look at very, very closely, as well as overtime and all of these data indicators. But as we sit here today, we're in agreement that going to the 113 sworn personnel is the right step, because we need the opportunity to get to full staff and assess the workload. Because as we look at those two frozen positions, should they be filled with a skill set of a civilian CSO? Should they be filled with a sworn personnel police officer? Should they be served by a social worker? And so until we get to the point of this coming budget year and getting people in the seats, doing the job, serving the community, I'm not quite yet sure what I would recommend to the board. Of course, the police department has to do the analysis, but what is the right skill set for the next hiring need? What is the next hiring need? I think we need some time to get to full staff, assess the workload after that point, so that we make the right career commitment to those employees that we hire.
Well, like I said, I'm a numbers guy.
And to go back to what Jesse said earlier, during the budget process and the discussion that we had, just to get to the 113 sworn officers is going to be hard enough over the next fiscal year. So that's the goal that Jesse has.
That's the goal that we have set. And yes, everything that John just explained, he did a better job of explaining the history than I could. But that is our goal. Our goal is to get to 113 and then assess. I'm not telling you that down the line that we won't say we need 115 or whatever, but I feel like we have a good plan. In one of the things that we haven't done previously, up until recently, is the forecasting, the foreshadowing, the hiring in anticipation of retirements. That is a relatively new practice. We've started that as we saw the hiring difficulty that other agencies were having. And that gives us a great tool, because I might not have somebody that's willing to tell me what their last day on the job is, but they might tell me what the first day that they're going to possibly leave, and they might tell me the absolute last day they're going to leave. So if I have that window and I can forecast from that it's going to take me 9 months to train somebody, and I can back up 9 months and get someone trained, where historically we were very reactive. Police hiring historically was very reactive. You post a test date, people show up, they take your test, people retire after 30 years, and then you start hiring to replace them. Times have changed, we've evolved, we've tried to get more fleet-footed, we tried to shave time off of that process in every possible way that we can, and we continue to. Some of the things that we've done have been really helpful, and others we've said, you know what, that's not helpful, it's not worth the extra effort, let's go back to put it this way. To kind of echo what John said, it's a tall order for me to get to that number because there is obviously supply and demand issues within the workforce. I'm really optimistic that we have more than twice as many people on this upcoming list than we had on the last list. So, you don't know what you've got on the list until you start actually running through the different steps. But my goal is to get to that 113 so that we can assess and have that conversation.
But my hope was that if manna falls from heaven and you find 4 guys that you would love to have, that you would have the option to take them. Like I said, maybe it's naive, but I have my number that I got in my head.
Can I comment?
Wait, trustee Crislow.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand completely, because up until your explanation, also thought that we should try to staff to 115, but I think it makes sense because at 113, when you have them all on board and in the positions and the seats they need to be in, we can assess what the other 2 positions might look like, might be social, completely understand. What I'd like to know, Mayor, please, is can we have a report from the chief in 6 months to get just sort of a midterm, so we're not back here in a year finding out what's going on? A 6-month report would be very helpful. I trust your assessment, all of you, but I'd like to be in a little more knowledge behind it.
We've always had an understanding with the manager and our chiefs of police that when they need to increase their budget, that they will bring to us. Going back a couple of years during the Great Recession, we froze every position in the village of Skokie. The one exception was the police department. And we've pretty much kept that philosophy since then. It's worked well for us. And John and now Chief Barnes, I hope they know that if they do need more manpower, they can come back to the board. And if you want a report in 6 months, you'll get a report.
Thank you. It'll be helpful just to see where you're.
Absolutely.
Sure.
It's not a report questioning the decision, it's a report understanding what's going on. So as we go to the next budget, we're more educated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'm going to follow up on questions from trustee Klein and Robinson. Ask you about our forward responder program. And I hear the same things you're hearing, that how much the community appreciates this. With the data that we've gotten in the past few years, in your opinion, is the data showing that we need a second pair?
I think that the data shows that the program has been an absolute success in every way, shape, and form. And I think that is largely because of the 2 people that are in the program. That is work that people have to be passionate about and have to have the right temperament, background, training, all of those things. We are incredibly fortunate to have both of those employees, and we're incredibly fortunate to have them on board already as seasoned employees when we rolled out the program. So my answer to you is that I have not evaluated the program to see if it should be expanded because my primary focus is the patrol division, which is, kind of the biggest heart and soul of the police department in traditional policing. Once I get to the point that I fully staff the patrol division, I would absolutely be happy to do some type of a 6-month report on that as well and evaluate, where we are and what we need to do going forward. But the primary objective is definitely get our patrol division fully staffed.
Maybe this could be something included in the 6-month report.
And I can add to that, the program was fully operational in November. And so November of last year was this, I want to say it was the 2nd anniversary of the program. And Chief Baker was still here, the transition with chiefs happened after that point. And so at that point, in Chief Baker and Mike Charlie's assessment of the program, it did not warrant a second team being added at that point. And so just right before Chief Barnes started, that was kind of completed. So I just wanted to share that information as well.
Also, I just heard something about body cameras. John, in our first budget hearing last month, you mentioned that our FOIA requests are way up and that the majority of this is going to our police department simply because we're using body worn cameras now.
Let me just clarify a little bit. So out of FOIA's, 70%, approximately 70% are police, and within that 70% includes the body worn cameras. Body worn cameras are new. We implemented fully about a year and a half ago. And so since that time, we have added the workload of camera footage having to be produced through the FOIA process. And there's been over 150 of those incidents that we had to provide the body worn camera footage that we never had to do prior to the implementation of the program.
That's because in our previous discussion of corporation council laws, we were talking about, I was asking about AG's investigations of our OMA and FOIA compliance. To your knowledge, has the AG's office ever questioned our FOIA compliance with our police department?
What, the role that the AG's office plays in FOIAs is if a requester, typically, if a requester feels like they were denied information that they feel like they should have received. And so they have the right to go to the AG's office and ask for an opinion. And so I do not know every one of those that have been filed. There may have been ones related to the police department or to the body worn camera footage, but I can't recall one off the top of my head.
Anyone can file a request for review, and AG's office often chooses to not investigate because they believe there's no probable cause. To your knowledge, have they ever used
body worn camera footage, FOIA denial suspect?
I'm just.
Restate the question, I don't follow you.
The AG's office has opened up U.S. investigations concerning kind of our boards of FOIA clients. But has there ever been an investigation concerning our police department's FOIA compliance?
I think that's a good question. Why don't I do a little research with the FOIA officer to see what history there is.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all of you.
Yeah, can't shut her up.
Yeah, Deborah. We still have to talk at a time.
I know, there's nothing for me.
Isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome? Have a great night. Thank you so much.
Item this evening is grant programming. Alex?
Hello again. I'm happy to present the FY25 grant programming budget. Every year on behalf of the Board of Trustees, the village provides grant funds to Skokie nonprofit organizations and government entities for community events, programs, and performances. The purpose of the grants is to build a sense of community by providing Skokie residents with entertainment and cultural opportunities that bring them together. This year, the FY25 grant programming budget is increasing $4,000 to provide additional grant funding for the Talking Farm internship program. This program gives about 10 interns hands-on instruction on soil preparation, crop care, harvesting, and other key areas of successfully managing a sustainable urban farm. These internships are about 8 to 12 weeks in length and are filled by local area students, many of which are studying area universities such as Loyola, Oakton, and UIC. This also helps further the village's environmental sustainability plan goal of increasing the availability and education around locally produced food. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Save the best for last.
Yeah.
Yes.
Full time. For the 10th meeting in a row, I'm going to speak about the need to reform the village's legal department. Tonight, I just want to follow up on my comments from our last meeting when I talked about the village would go on disputes with the AG's office concerning our OMA and and employee violations. Our village attorneys are still being used to dispute these violations instead of helping the village correct and prevent these violations. And to me, this is a pretty clear example of how I don't think we're handling the services that we need. Tonight, I want to just respond to some of the comments that were made at our last meeting by you, Trustee Klein, and you, Mayor Newsom. Trustee Klein, during our last meeting, you asked me a very fair question.
All my questions are fair. That's
Following my request that the trustees do more in response to the HG's investigations, you asked me to be more specific about what I am asking the trustees to do, so I would like to be more specific. I am asking the trustees to actively advocate that the village stop disputing the AG's office any longer concerning our open employee violations. The AG's office does not open an investigation if there isn't already probable cause that an employee violation has occurred. So when they open an investigation, we should be focused on correcting violations and preventing future violations. So I'm asking the trustees to actively advocate that the village stop disputing the AG's office any longer concerning our OMA employee violations.
So if we don't agree with it, we should stop.
Mayor, at our last meeting, you stressed that the village has a right to dispute the AG's office when we're investigated. And I don't think anyone is questioning that. But just because we have a right to dispute the AG's office does not mean that we should dispute them. When the AG's office points out a violation or indicates that there probably has been a violation, we should acknowledge our mistake. We should take steps to correct it. We should make sure that it doesn't happen again. And that way we don't continue to be investigated. Colleagues, earlier today, I emailed you all a lengthy PDF featuring documentation of at least 6 investigations from the AG's office since November 2022, all concerning OMA and FOIA violations. Since these began, we have been averaging 1 investigation every 3 months. I think we are clearly not getting the legal counsel we need to prevent these violations. And I hope that this documentation provides all of you with enough evidence of why your advocacy is needed. Thank you.
Because somebody decides that they are going to send to the Attorney General an objection under FOIA or under OMA, doesn't make it fact. And the Attorney General rarely says that he will not allow the person who's being objected to respond. And I think there's a responsibility to respond. As a matter of fact, it frequently leads to a clarification. Perfect example of that is the clarification that we have been working on along with the Illinois Municipal League, the Northwest Municipal Conference, and the Attorney General's office, I would point out, and clarifying state law on executive sessions. That is part of the legislative process. There is nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, in that particular case, half of the municipalities in the state of Illinois were doing exactly what Attorney General Lisa Madigan in writing had advised. The current Attorney General has taken a different interpretation of state law. And we are working with the Attorney General's office as a result in trying to clarify state law. So it's infinitely more complicated than what you're alleging. And saying it's an investigation would lead somebody to think that the FBI is showing up with subpoenas or something. Somebody makes an allegation and it's not an investigation, it's a deliberative process that allows myself in particular, if I happen to be the object of it, to legitimately respond. And the Attorney General can weigh the evidence as he sees it and make a decision. Anytime a decision is rendered, whether it upholds of what we happen to, our interpretation of events, or somebody else's, we always should be open to changing processes, to working to make things better. That's one of the things that we have done traditionally, as have every municipality in the state of Illinois. Evanston has wound up having a series of problems as well. I dare say there's not a municipality in the state of Illinois who hasn't had some resident file a claim with the Attorney General, and the Attorney General reflexively sends out a letter saying, respond to this. That is not a presumption of guilt. So I think it's much more complicated than.
I'm not really sure how many times we have to be investigated before we accept that we have a problem.
Okay.
Motion